Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. So glad you are with us here tonight. We have been working on a special project all summer long and look forward to having you watch this with us tonight as we talk about the internet crime against children Idaho task force. It's been a big project. And after we show you this video here in just a moment, we are going to have Nick Edwards. He is the head of the Idaho Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, the unit with the Attorney General's office, and you will see him here. So all night long, would appreciate your questions and your comments, any thoughts you have about the story. He will be taking them live here on Courtroom Insider. Would love to know, first of all, where you are watching from. And again, as you have those questions, feel free to put them in the comments as we go throughout the evening, as Peggy, our comment moderator, will be taking them live and bringing them to you tonight as we talk here. I do want to make a note about last night's episode. Whoops, I hit the mute button. I'm sorry. That's a very sensitive button. I teased last night that we were going to have an interview with Mike King. He is a very experienced law enforcement officer who has done so much with with helping children, helping victims of crime, and that we had a technical issue. So we could not bring that to you last night, and we will bring that to you later this week, either tomorrow or the next night. But we have a full week of interesting programming planned for you here on Courtroom Insider, so hope you will stay with us. Okay, with that, I want to kind of give you a little bit of background on how this story came to be. We often get reports of children who are being sexually abused from family members, from strangers, from others who are known to these children. And they're just horrible, horrible cases. But in recent years, there has been this big uptick it seems like there's been this big uptick in men, mainly men. In fact, I can't recall a woman. There's probably one or two out there who go online to look for sex with children. And we report about these, we get the news releases, we see the court documents, we generally report on them, and then the story is quiet for all intents and purposes. And then another one comes along. We've had people in our comments say, is there this epidemic of child sex offenders? Has this really exploded? And the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force here in Idaho has really amped up over the past few years as far as going after these predators. The law enforcement goes out and captures them, and then it's up to the court system to do their job and sentence these predators, put them behind bars, and see what sentence they deserve. Tonight, we're going to focus on the ICAC unit. That stands for Internet Crimes Against Children. And starting back in May, we began going undercover with them. We weren't undercover with them all day, every day in the summer. It was different sting operations. We went out to Boise and spent a few days at the Attorney General's office out there, really got an inside look at how this whole unit, this whole department of the Attorney General's office functions and how they rely and use officers and deputies across the state to help in these arrests. And this piece will go into that. And then, as I mentioned, when we come out of it, we'll have Nick Edwards here on Zoom. And with that, I'm just going to play the piece. Here you go. 6:30 in the morning. And these... It's 6:30 in the morning. And these cops are about to knock on a door.
Radio check again for the mic.
And talk to a guy about some really disturbing stuff. Right now, police are in the apartment. They're speaking with the man. Moments later, he's walked out in handcuffs. I wish I could say this is a one-time thing.
Suspect's leaving, he's getting in the vehicle.
But on other days, they're doing it again and again and again. They're going to go into the home now. They have a warrant. These men and women in uniform are part of the Idaho Internet Crimes Against Children, or ICAC unit. Here on this screen, we're keeping an eye on that red pickup. And all summer long, I've been undercover with them.
Throw this on over you, let's hop in the car. You guys in? We're in. All right, let's go.
As they work to get those involved in this disgusting material off the streets.
Sometimes these unexpected things happen.
Absolutely, so you can never anticipate what's going on.
But before we can talk about these sting operations in East Idaho, we have to go here.
This is the JRW building.
To the Attorney General's office in Boise. That's the tease and the wrong video. That was the tease. Are you ready? Here we go. Here's the full version. I just did that so that we would have more people tune in and our numbers went up. Here we go. It's 6:30 in the morning. And these cops are about to knock on a door
Radio check again for the mic.
and talk to a guy about some really disturbing stuff. Right now, police are in the apartment. They're speaking with the man. Moments later, he's walked out in handcuffs. I wish I could say this is a one-time thing.
Suspect's leaving, he's getting in the vehicle.
But on other days, they're doing it again and again and again. They're going to go into the home now. They have a warrant. These men and women in uniform are part of the Idaho Internet Crimes Against Children, or ICAC unit. Here on this screen, we're keeping an eye on that red pickup. And all summer long, I've been undercover with them.
Throw this on over you, let's hop in the car. You guys in?
We're in.
All right, let's go.
As they work to get those involved in this disgusting material off the streets.
Sometimes these unexpected things happen.
Absolutely, so you can never anticipate what's going on.
But before we can talk about these sting operations in East Idaho, we have to go here
This is the JRW building.
to the Attorney General's office in Boise.
Our job is to locate those that might be disseminating, uploading, downloading, enticing child pornography or children.
Nick Edwards is the chief investigator for the Attorney General and the commander of the ICAC unit.
And I get this question a lot, like, are people watching what I'm doing online? Absolutely. The internet provider that you're using is absolutely watching what you're doing.
For the first time, the AG is letting media cameras inside ICAC headquarters. Your team has to see some pretty horrific stuff.
They do.
There are 61 ICAC units across the country. They get thousands of tips every day about people viewing, sharing, or producing CSAM. That stands for Child Sex Abuse Material, commonly called child pornography.
Electronic service providers are required by federal law that they actually have to report when they believe somebody's either downloading, uploading, distributing child pornography.
Those reports go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, where they're reviewed and then passed on to the states where investigators believe the perpetrators are. In Idaho, those cyber tips go here, where Lindsay Harris and Misty Hobbs review every single nasty one.
There's chat, there's video, there's photos, sometimes there's all in one.
Many of the tips are teenagers sexting their friends. Others involve sextortion. And then there are videos and photos where it's hard to tell if there's a child involved.
To determine if it has prosecutorial merit, would the average person look at this child and know that's a child? Internet Crimes Against Children, this is Lindsay.
Harris and Hobbs review nearly 100 cyber tips every week, and the numbers aren't slowing down. Over the past 5 years, the number of incoming tips to ICAC has gone from around 1,500 in 2020 to over 4,100 expected this year.
We had a backlog of almost 2,000 cyber tips at one point. Now, on average, we get them from the National Center and they've been looked at by someone on my team in 4 hours.
Wow.
So it's much quicker. You know, we're getting to
And
these.
there's no
really fast.
backlog.
There's no backlog.
To tackle the problem, Attorney General Raul Labrador relies on an ICAC affiliate program. Here's how it works. 11 law enforcement agencies throughout the state have officers working ICAC cases full-time. They're paid by the AG, but work in police departments and sheriff's offices where they live.
We had these months and months, almost years of backlog.
Labrador says the affiliate program has been a big success.
Last year, we arrested more people and prosecuted more people than in the previous 3 years combined.
And do you predict that to keep going?
We hope it doesn't keep going because that just means that we have more children being harmed. But unfortunately, this is the kind of crime that continues to happen, and I think our team is well prepared.
That team has access to cutting-edge tools that help track down predators, and a lot of it is done inside this high-tech lab that's normally off-limits. What type of equipment is in here? These look like some pretty heavy-duty computers.
Yeah, we have some Tolinos, and they're very powerful machines. People have gaming computers that are pretty powerful. Well, we need powerful computers that read powerful computers.
Chris Harden and other computer forensic examiners analyze hard drives, phones, computers, and other devices seized from suspected child predators.
One case we had over in eastern Idaho a couple weeks ago, there were 55 devices.
Okay, let's go to work.
Another helpful tool, this guy. He's Badger.
So he is trained to detect any electronics that store memory.
That's right. He can smell electronics that you and I can't. His partner, Lauren Lane, shows us how it's done. She and Edwards hide old hard drives, and Badger gets to work.
Seek. 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 Good, show me. Yes. Good boy.
Badger mainly works in the Treasure Valley, but here in East Idaho, Detective Mendenhall's partner, Artis, does the same thing.
We'll see what happens today.
And that brings us back to those early morning sting operations. The night before each one, everything is planned out carefully in briefings like this. There are undercover cops in here, and sensitive details are discussed, so we can't show you everything. But these officers take their work very seriously. The next morning, we're up early in Bonneville County. It's 6:25 in the morning. This guy is about to leave for work. And here at the Ammon Field office, we're keeping an eye on him. Here's a drone operator who's monitoring the activity. The drone is hovering over the man's house. And officers here on the scene are communicating with officers who are there at the home. Here on this screen, we're keeping an eye on that red pickup. When he walks out and gets inside that truck, he's going to leave for work, and that's when he'll be pulled over. At 6:40,
Okay, he's getting in his pickup.
he gets in his truck, pulls out of the driveway,
He's approaching Stevens.
and seconds later,
Or Stevens and Silverstone.
59-year-old Ricky Craig is pulled over.
We've got a subject detained.
He's brought to the field office for questioning. As he's being interviewed, other members of the ICAC unit search his home and seize several electronic devices. What they find is shocking. Over 20,000 images of humans engaged in sex acts with animals. On one computer, there are 7,386 photos of child sex abuse material. On another device, nearly 5,000 pictures. Owen Craig, he was on the sex offender registry years ago, but petitioned and was able to get off. Now he's charged with 15 felony counts of possessing child pornography.
This morning we're going to be serving a search warrant.
A few weeks later, we're in Pocatello. ICAC officers are looking for a man who goes by Fun0278 on the social media app Kik. Fun0278 is actually Rusty Harris. He's 55, and after police wake him up, he's taken in for questioning. So right now, law enforcement officers are inside the trailer searching it. They'll then come out and search the truck. This label right here, these are placed on every single thing that they search. They make a list of things that would be important for the investigation. All of the electronic devices are brought out here to this forensics van. There's actually people inside right now going through the devices, seeing if there's any evidence that would be used in the case. And they find it. Photos of girls under 14 being raped and sexually assaulted. Chats where Harris allegedly offers money for child sex abuse material featuring young kids. And perhaps the most alarming, a conversation in which he claims to have paid $250 to have sex with 3 girls, writing that the parents of the children, quote, helped the girls participate in sexual acts.
I confirmed that the individual on the account is the one who lives at this trailer court.
He's charged with 10 counts of possessing child pornography. During his interview, he denied having any physical contact with children and said those conversations were, quote, only fantasies.
Let's just get him out of there as soon as we can.
What isn't a fantasy is how common these cases are. The very next day, we're in Idaho Falls for not one, but 2 separate cases at the same apartment complex.
We've detained one of the residents of the apartment, and he's being interviewed right now.
Nathan Seelig is the suspect here. He's 43, and officers seize a large computer and 18 other devices from the apartment he shares with a family member. On those devices, videos showing hundreds of children, from babies to 16 years old, being sexually assaulted by men and women. Seelig has a folder labeled Pedo Dreams on his computer, according to officers, and now he's charged with 6 counts of possessing child pornography. And in the building right behind his, another guy in pajama pants is arrested. He's 38-year-old Matthew Dudley and is accused of uploading a CSAM photo to Bing, then asking the search engine to find him similar images. He tells officers he searched for real and AI child pornography, so he, quote, wouldn't go after real children, and the viewing the material helped him, quote, not want to sexually abuse children.
We actually were able to just pass an AI bill with the legislature.
Madison Allen is the lead deputy attorney general in the Special Prosecutions Criminal Division. And effective this year, in the eyes of the law, there's no difference between AI CSAM and other types.
Now we're able to prosecute the possession of computer-generated images as well as the normal child sexual abuse material that we see of real children.
So what about the kids who are in all of these horrific videos and photos? Allen has been able to track a few down, and they've testified in court, but finding them can be very hard.
Our victims are all over the place, When we have possession of CSAM cases, most of the time those victims are unidentified, which is very, very sad.
I assist victims of crime throughout the state.
In situations where victims can be found, Alicia Bowles is there to assist. She's the AG Victims Witness Coordinator and helps family members of suspects and other innocent people who might be affected.
And when you say assist them, what all does that entail?
That entails whatever they need. So it could be that they just want their victims' rights. With other victims, it can be much more involved. Those secondary victims, those family members, they are in absolute crisis, and for days upon weeks, because they're the ones that are actually picking up the pieces.
Mental health is important for the victims and everyone who works with ICAC. They're all required to attend individual therapy twice a year and group counseling 2 times as well. There are regular seminars and workshops focusing on self-care. And every year, there are certain tests and standards each of the ICAC officers must pass.
Members of the ICAC unit are constantly sharpening their skills and undergoing training all year long to make sure they're ready for whatever comes their way. In fact, twice a year, they're here at the shooting range, making sure they meet state standards. Ready, fire!
These officers see the worst of the worst, and it's heartbreaking when they show up to arrest someone and children are present.
I have been on scene when we've rescued live kids, and I've watched the heartbreak, I've watched the trauma, but there's massive reward that comes with that. When you take a child from a home that has been being victimized or abused and rescue a kid, there's nothing that compares to that.
With all of this on the rise, every person I spoke with in the ICAC unit this summer told me one thing: parents must be involved with their kids and their phones.
What are their kids doing on their phones? How old are they when they're having their phones? And just understanding that when you're giving that kid a phone, like, you're giving them access to everything.
I've learned that it's any kid. Your kid is not immune to this.
If I were a parent starting all over again, I would, first of all, not give my kids phones, but I know that's not the reality of the world right now. But I would limit their access, and I would be very conscious about what they're downloading and what apps they're using.
As of this week, the ICAC unit has arrested nearly 50 men for child sex crimes in Idaho this year.
We're going to stay back just for a minute.
Child predators are in every community.
We're coming after you and we're going to arrest you.
They're hiding behind their phones, computers, and tablets.
They're going to be caught, and I look forward to the day when it's my privilege to prosecute them.
And these men and women are determined to hunt them down.
Somebody has to do it.
So they'll be back out early in the morning again and again.
The search warrant includes all electronic devices in the residence,
bringing justice to the most innocent among us.
Together, and we just help each other out as we travel throughout the state, trying to protect kids throughout Idaho.
All righty. That is our investigation, and I know that many of you are sending in your questions, so we are going to bring in Nick Edwards. Nick, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Nate. Can you hear me?
Oh my gosh, I can hear you. It worked. It worked,
Christmas
everybody.
miracle.
Yes,
Christmas
it is.
Miracle.
Just big hats off to you and your team all across the state who do this regularly. I mean, when we say regularly, everybody, this isn't once every few months. It was, quite often. We don't want to say how often, I guess, because you might tip off the people. But questions are coming in, Nick, so let's get straight to them. The first one was, you mentioned that several of the messages are sextortion or sexting. Do those get prosecuted, and how do you handle those?
Yeah, the sextortion stuff's tough. That's a difficult one. The sextortion thing is a new trend. I say new. It's certainly on the rise, and so they're extremely difficult oftentimes to prosecute the sextortion stuff, because oftentimes the victims or the suspects are in the Ivory Coast or somewhere else. And so sextortion, although there are cases where they've been prosecuted, we really try to make sure that the parents and the kids that are being sextorted get the resources to get their stuff taken down off of websites and to help them as much as we can.
How does that work, Nick? How would a sextortion thing work?
Yeah, so sextortion is, basically it's a form of blackmail. So I'll give you kind of an example on kind of how this might look. It might be a young man that has befriended by what he believes to be a young female, and she, through coercion or whatever, is able to obtain an inappropriate image of the young man, then turns around and blackmails him with that image and threatens to, send that to his parents, tell his teachers, exploit him online. And if he doesn't pay him a certain amount of money, then he'll do that. And so and those have some real consequences, right? Kids obviously, oftentimes are paying those, and our recommendation would be to don't ever pay those. Instantly tell an adult. We can help with this extortion stuff. There are resources available to get your stuff taken down online. If you've done something like that, posted something up there, we can help.
Okay, and
Does that
then the
make sense?
sexting. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
And we could actually do a whole story on sextortion if
we
you are
really
interested
could.
in that. You could Google it. We probably should, just as a refresher course. That, um, yeah, there's so much there. Okay, and then the sexting between two teenagers, is that legal? I guess it's
Yeah,
illegal if an
so
adult sexts a teen.
correct. Yeah, I mean, in theory, I guess they are. They're absolutely, if they're sending inappropriate images back and forth under the age, they are distributing by the letter of the law, CSAM material. And so we would just, typically when we have teens that are doing this back and forth, we notify parents, we notify, law enforcement agencies call us and ask us like, hey, what can we do here? But that's definitely a conversation that we bring the parents involved and help get through that. Yep.
Okay. Next question. Where are the people that are manufacturing this disgusting material? How do we get them?
Boy, that question is, I think they're all over, right? I mean, some of the stuff the content that we've seen that are making this could be right here in Idaho. We've seen cases where we've charged people with manufacturing CSAM, but we've also we get videos from all over the world, and so I would say that there's not one particular area that I could point to. It's all over.
Somebody says, how is it that some places have units like this, while other places have judges that run traffic rings and get done in by their sheriff on video camera? I don't know what that means, but maybe you can talk about why do some places have units? And I'm assuming this question comes from somebody maybe outside of Idaho. But does this type of thing work across the across the states?
Yeah, so Idaho's super unique, right? This is why we're proud to live in Idaho. This is why Idaho is a great place. Idaho ICAC, in the video you talked about there's 61 total ICACs across the country, but Idaho's ICAC task force looks uniquely different than any other task force in the state in the states because we have what we call a unit where we reimburse the salary for 11 full-time affiliates across the state. No other state does that. To my knowledge. And we meet with the ICAC commanders. I meet with them quite regularly, but we're unique in that we have this unit because I think Idaho has put that as a priority, right? Our legislators have made that a priority to protect kids, and we have a specific unit. But we also have not just our full-time affiliates that do this, but every agency, every law enforcement agency in the state, when we call and ask for help, they're willing to help. They have investigators that maybe not be a full-time ICAC investigator, but we have lots of investigators throughout the state, cops, sheriff's deputies, federal partners that help help investigate and work these cases.
Have you ever arrested a woman or women who are grooming these children? And if not, why do you think they don't get involved?
Man, I don't know the second part to that question. Since I've been the ICAC commander, we have arrested one. But that only one since I've been the ICAC commander for about a year and a half now, and only one. So
wow, arresting these.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
the second part of that question is above my pay grade. I have no
right.
idea.
I mean, sometimes we do see the teachers per se, or a neighbor that might a female that might date a woman, a guy in person. Or not date, I should say, but pursue. But yeah, you don't see a lot of them online. Somebody says arresting these pathetic individuals does not seem to be the problem. It's keeping them behind bars for a long period of time that seems to be the problem. I guess what would you say about the sentencing? Because you all work so hard, you get the evidence, the probable cause, you get the search warrant, you arrest the guy, but then from there, it's kind of out of your hands, isn't it?
Yeah, totally out of our hands. We don't control that. Our investigative team is the law enforcement side of it, pushing it through. And so, I really don't control that portions of it. Not really my lane, unfortunately.
Somebody says, personally, I think we need to make a state law not allowing kids to have smartphones under the age of 16. What are your thoughts about kids having cell phones?
Oof, good. That's a good question. Man, I think that is the phones, and this is just the Nick Edwards opinion of this thing. This is a parenting problem more than anything, perhaps, for kids, right? This is a parenting issue that the parents should decide what's best for their kid. When is a child responsible enough to have a phone when they're not? Not my call. I certainly see the dangers of it, so my opinion might be different than others, but there's certainly challenges with that when you give a kid a phone at a super young age. And so I recognize that, but I kind of defer back to what the Attorney General said. I think he had his comment is, he maybe regrets giving his kids a phone too early. And so that's good advice, I think.
Yeah, and then he also added that check the apps on your kids' phones and the text messages. And maybe Nick, you can tell us a little bit about these Vault apps. Is that what they're called? What didn't make it into that piece that we discussed was those apps on the phones on how you can looks like a calculator on your kid's phone, but if you click on that
Right.
calculator, you can find a folder of images, of movies, of communications. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think the big secret would be to, and maybe not even a secret, like know what your kids are doing on their phones. I'm probably just as guilty as not knowing everything that they're doing on their phones, but be aware of what's out there. And we frequently will post on our social media sites for the Idaho ICAC Task Force, our Facebook and our Instagram, like here are the 15 apps that every parent should know about. Here are the 10 apps that every dating apps that every parent should know about. Here are the 15 Vault apps that every parent should know about. And so that's, again, kind of being an engaged parent, knowing what your kids are doing. And there's lots of resources out there because there's Vault apps and there's, you name it, it's probably been thought of, and just be aware of what they're doing.
That
Yeah.
goes along with our next questions. Are there particular phone apps that we as parents should be watching for on our children's devices to protect them further?
Yeah, good question. I guess I can speak from the ICAC task force perspective. All of the cyber tips that we get from the National Center for Missing Exploited Children, as those cyber tips come in, and I think as of yesterday, we're sitting right around 3,500 cyber tips, 3,600 cyber tips, which is just about to surpass what we received total last year. And so, if you look at the statistically speaking, what we're seeing. We see the different cyber tips that come up from the different internet providers or social media sites. And I would say 70% of what we receive in Idaho, this is not nationally, but what we get in Idaho comes through Snapchat. So if you've got a child that's on Snapchat, there's your caution right there. I think that's can be a very dangerous social media site. And I say that from the stance is 70% of what we get in Idaho on our cyber tips is from Snapchat.
I was at CrimeCon over the weekend and spoke with many people, Chris Hansen from the Predator show and all those others, and every single person said Snapchat is just awful for this type of stuff. And then
Yep.
Kick was another one which we mentioned in the piece that the guy in Pocatello was using to communicate.
Yeah, Kick is another one that we get a lot on Discord, Kick, Snapchat, Roblox. There's quite a few.
Somebody says, maybe this is not your lane. You're getting a lot of these, Nick.
I
A
like
lot
the
of
ones
these.
that aren't my lane. That's an easy one. Those are easy questions.
But you work really hard to bring these individuals down and then they're let out. Does that make you feel like you're working for nothing?
No, never. Nope, no way. If we can, man, especially when we can rescue a kid, right? There's a lot of fulfillment. And I was hesitant when I took over about a year and a half ago and I was asked to be the ICAC commander. I'd never worked an ICAC case. I'd worked in narcotics. I'd worked, tactical. I was a street cop. And I was hesitant to kind of take over as the ICAC commander, having never even worked a case. But I will tell you in the last year and a half, these have been easily some of the most fulfilling years in law enforcement that I've had. It is super rewarding, and this is why we get into law enforcement. This is why I started following my grandfather and my father's footsteps years ago when I decided to get in Idaho law enforcement. This is why. So it doesn't distress me at all.
Right. And those of you watching might think that Nick looks familiar. He testified in the Daybell trials in Boise, and before he was with the ICAC. Or wait, did you transition to the ICAC unit during that phase, Nick?
No, so when I came to work at the Attorney General's office, I came in 2019, and I was assigned to the Special Investigations Unit, and
Okay.
I was assigned to assist in that investigation and in that case, and it was after my deployment to the Middle East in 2022 or 2023 that I took over as the ICAC Commander and Chief Investigator.
And
Yeah,
I
so it was
believe
after.
you came back from your deployment to testify, didn't you?
I did. So I'm
Yeah.
still in the National Guard, still serving in the
Right.
Idaho Army National Guard. And I was deployed during Lori's trial
Mm.
and got a subpoena in the Middle East and went through the Kuwait International Airport to catch a flight back to testify in court. And in Lori's trial, I was the last witness.
That's right.
And then I caught a flight and went back to the Middle East. So, yeah.
And you might remember, I'm not going to spend too much time on Daybell, but I remember you testifying about the gun that Alex Cox was holding, how it's possible why it did that whoosh sound and didn't kill Tammy Daybell, how you talked about the pins getting jostled, and they relied on Nick's expertise about guns and being in the military. And so he goes from that to this. I can imagine there may have been a little bit of apprehension to go on because you think ICAC unit, you think you're going to be looking at CSAM all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's right. Like there's a lot of apprehension when anybody, and you ask most law enforcement officers that get asked to work ICAC cases, a lot of them will say, no way, like I could never do it.
Yeah.
And I was probably in that same boat. Like I have no interest in doing that, but I will tell you there's not a better calling in law enforcement than to go after predators that are targeting our children. Like that's why you become a cop.
Somebody says, this is not a question. I just want to say thank you so much for getting these monsters off the street.
I would,
Another,
if I can, yeah, that is the, under the direction of the Attorney General, and he has put together a fantastic team. All of the people that you saw in that video, from the analysts to the forensic investigators to the attorneys that are prosecuting this stuff to all of the affiliates and all of the partner agencies. This is not me. This is certainly a much bigger team than just myself.
somebody asked, is ICAC only through the AG's office?
Yeah, so the Attorney General's office is the clearinghouse for the National Center for Missing Exploited Children in Idaho. Most of the ICACs across the country, I'd say probably half, are through their Attorney General's offices respectively, but not all. Many of the ICACs go into some of the larger agencies. So like Nevada, for example, the Nevada ICAC actually goes through the Las Vegas Metro Police Department there. Same with like Alaska goes through Anchorage PD. But in Idaho, it does come through the Attorney General's office. And then we rely heavily on all of our affiliate agencies, sheriff's offices, state police and local police departments, and federal partners to help us work cases specific to Idaho. Yeah.
Another person asks, I think this would be appropriate to have assemblies where they educate parents and students in the schools. Would this be a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. So part of, this is what you're seeing here tonight was like the enforcement part of it, but much of what we do in ICAC is also parent education and community outreach. And so we are happy to come out and put on an internet safety presentation. We're happy to bring out Badger to whatever event you're doing, to your school. We want to share what we're doing and share some ideas on how to keep kids safe online, because that's the other half of this is certainly the community outreach and reaching out and making sure that kids are safe. But so yeah, I would refer everybody to our social media sites, again, the Idaho ICAC Task Force on Facebook, on Instagram, and then there's a website that you can actually request a presentation. You can follow Badger. I think Badger has his own Instagram page, and I think Lauren would love it if a bunch of people followed Badger tonight. So
yeah. Okay, someone, again, this might be outside of your lane. Why on earth are prisoners allowed access to the internet?
Yeah, that's probably a question for someone else. I don't control the jails.
I think if they do have internet, I can guarantee, well, I guess I can't guarantee. They would not be allowed to access this type of material, or they'd quickly lose their internet access if that's allowed. A lot of the facilities, at least in Idaho, have these tablets that there's pre-approved apps on there that you can communicate, but you can't like go browse the internet. Somebody says, Another one that a convicted sex offender should not be allowed to have internet access, period. Is this a possibility? Y'all are wanting to change the laws. You should contact your lawmakers.
Right. I think that's a great question for our legislators. Right.
Yeah.
Those are legislative questions for sure. Yep.
My son got a text from a classmate and we did not get involved, but they arrested the boy. I believe he texted several kids adult link sites. Is this becoming more common in classroom situations and settings?
Ooh, in the classroom again, that's a good question for my wife. She's in a school, so I'll defer to her. I have no idea if it's becoming more of a trend of if they're saying sharing an adult website link. I'm sure that's probably a thing. I'm not sure how we would probably get involved in something like that, but.
Can you please talk about the role of the Center for Missing and Exploited Children and coordinating or communicating with them to catch the predators?
Yeah, so NECMEC is really they're a fantastic organization that we really rely on, and that's where we get the cyber tips. And so the internet providers, the social media sites, that they're monitoring the all of the stuff that's going on, and they're required by law to report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, to NECMEC. And then those cases come to us. So they're like the big clearinghouse, and then they figure out what state it goes to, and then we figure out what jurisdiction it goes to here in Idaho. They do some great work. They are constantly helping us with what they're seeing at the national level. I sat on a call yesterday. They talked about some of the increase in cyber tips that they're getting. They talked about the trends that they're seeing nationally. And so they're an active role. We see them. We get training from them all the time. So we have a very close relationship with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Yep.
They do so much.
Hopefully that answered that question. I'm not. Hopefully anyway.
Yeah. Another one, Nick. Honestly, I'm having PTSD from this whole thing. How do you as officers handle this?
Great question. Thank you. When I took over we implemented a policy where we mandate our affiliates and our analysts to see a mental health expert at least twice a year. We contracted with a local mental health doctor here in the Boise Valley, and we all have to meet with him at a minimum of twice a year, and certainly it's open to go as much as they need to. And then it's interesting. We also do group counselings or group trainings together that are also mandated. They have to go twice a year. And we open those up to not just our full-time ICAC investigators, but any investigator or cop that's working ICAC across the state's welcome to do that and to join us in those group trainings. And we change the topic from, whatever it is, whether it's mental health, suicide awareness, we change those up because that's the important part. And then we also, the beauty of the affiliate program, for example, is we have these investigators in police departments that help us work ICAC cases. And we've had cases where an investigator says, I can no longer work ICAC. My mental health can't take it anymore. I got to get out. And boy, I respect somebody that can come and say that. That's a tough thing to do. And then they will step away. And the beauty of the affiliate program is the department can then say, all right, we get it. Next guy up. Thank you for your service. Next investigator that can and carry the torch a little longer. And so not uncommon. We have a very, I feel like it's an important role of ICAC is making sure that we keep them mentally healthy. The other nice thing that these ESD dogs, you talked about Badger and Officer Mendenhall or Detective Mendenhall with Idaho Falls and Artist. Those dogs are also dual purpose. They're trained in therapy as well. And I've been around a lot of canines and have different opinions on different canines, but I will tell you that when that dog's around, it's a different feel. The dog is fantastic. And looks like my light went off in there. Look at that. No one's here. But yeah, I mean, they're a great resource and a great tool to act as a therapy dog as well. They're dual purpose. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Nick, somebody wants to know, how do you feel about groups that are out there getting predators and taping them and then calling the cops? Is this a good idea?
I guess, no, it's not a good idea. What I would say is, we would always encourage you, if you believe that somebody's being sextorted, exploited online, to reach out to local law enforcement. One of the problems that we have a lot of times, and I'll call them, for lack of a better term, a vigilante group, right? Let's say that they want to, and it's not uncommon. I see it all the time there's lots of videos The challenging part that we run into is oftentimes they may not be following the investigative standards that we need to actually get a prosecution out of these things, right? They might be entrapping that person. And so what happens oftentimes is we get called and then we're ending up taking everybody's devices, not just the suspects, but everybody that went out and did their own kind of, vigilante enforcement. And so I would encourage anybody, if they believe somebody's doing something online like that, just reach out to local law enforcement and have us help. We can help. I promise you we will. Our team is very active. We're proactive. We'll go do a thing. You bet.
Right. Can you please talk more about what it's like when you have to rescue live children in situations? Are these children who are actually in the material or children whose parents are taken into custody?
Yeah, the answer is both. I've seen both, and not oftentimes. Sometimes it's extremely heart wrenching, right? It's heartbreaking to watch a family kind of unfold. I've watched that. We've seen this, but oftentimes as well as there's just these kind of crimes are super secretive, and they happen across all demographics. We've seen, we've arrested people from the highest levels to the lowest levels. It's like these are very much hidden and nobody knows. And there's this the stigma that comes with it. And so oftentimes when we serve a search warrant on a house, the wife is blindsided by it. And so it's not just the kids that are affected, but I've watched these just completely shatter homes, and super sad. Yeah,
I can't
very
imagine.
difficult to experience.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to condemn the homes or at least not. They're unlivable.
Yes, we have seen that as well. Yeah.
I wish there was a better way to ID and locate the victims in the content. I heard there was a group that scanned for logos on hotel rooms, decor, etc., to try and locate the child being perpetrated. Is that true?
Yeah, so there is NECMEC does have what they call a CVIP process, which is Child Victim Identification Program process that we submit when we get these videos and photos. Every investigator, when they're done, we submit them into the clearinghouse back into NECMEC to help identify these victims. There's a lot of effort that goes into not just in the state and the individual investigators submitting these images and videos back to NECMEC, but nationally, conferences where they'll spend a full week trying to identify all of these kids. And so if you get a chance to research CVIP, CVIP at the National Center for Missing Exploited Children, you can read about it. It's a great program trying to identify the victims. So yep, lots of effort going into that. It's a great thing.
Is there a way, again, this is a big question, but is there a way we can control AI from creating this garbage?
Wow. Probably. Again, that's also just probably not my wheelhouse. We just deal with it on the back end. I sat, like I said yesterday, through current trends, and the AI companies are also reporting to the National Center for Missing Exploited Children. So even your AI generated images and content gets reported. This year alone, I actually just pulled up the stat that I just got. Generative AI platforms in the first 6 months across the United States, there was over 500,000 AI generated content that was submitted to the NECMEC. And it is being reported, and our team will absolutely pursue somebody for creating CSAM with AI generated images or content. You bet.
I can't even imagine the vastness of that. 500,000.
500,000
in just 6 months, when AI is a fairly new thing, and where it's going to be in a few years when it's advanced and everywhere. That's just crazy. How can the average person help you in your office?
I love that. Help us share the message. We will post stuff on our social media, and I keep saying that, but I really do think that the message is social media can be a great thing, and we need it for ICAC. We need the message out. Reach out to your legislators. If you've got local legislators, and let them know that you want to support ICAC, what they can help. That also is a great avenue. But I think if you can help us share the message that we're posting and sharing, please get involved that way. And they can always reach out to the ICAC unit too. There might be a specific need or something, but if you want to reach out to us, certainly we're always willing to talk to anybody.
This is one that I don't know if you'll have a comment on, but what do you think about the Ruby Frankie and Jody Hildebrandt case?
Yeah, I probably can't comment on that one.
Right. Yeah, that one was, as far as I know, did not involve activity relating to this topic tonight. How often is it the parent exploiting the children, their own children?
I don't know statistically, but it does happen. It does happen. It happens here in Idaho, sadly.
Do you know if they're looking into any of the stuff that's going on with Roblox and all the sex stuff going on there with young kids?
We do, yeah. We get cyber tips from Roblox. We've had arrests here in Idaho that are Roblox cases. And they're so we are engaged in those kind of investigations with Roblox. And again, it's like any other platform, though. Parents need to be aware of what's out there. Just like Snapchat, right? Roblox is also another platform where people might try to find your kids.
Right. Is there an easy way to get prison records to give to Facebook when a child predator has an account against Facebook policy?
I don't know. That's a good question. Probably not for me. For prison records?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I know that you all.
You probably answer this really well. You know how to get these things.
Well, and also maybe your question is more so if you suspect someone is doing illegal stuff on Facebook or these platforms, the AG can request a warrant, right? And you can find out who it is, much like cell phone records.
Right. Oh, okay. Is that, yeah, I guess
that might be my interpretation of the question, but maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, so we get these. We get a cyber tip in. We absolutely have to follow the legal processes for administrative subpoenas and search warrants to get the information that we need. Yep.
Right. I think, Nick, that covers most of them. The others don't really relate to the topic that we're talking about tonight, or maybe you've answered them, but I do want to ask you, what do you want to add? What do you think is important for people to know that we haven't discussed tonight?
We're a resource, right? We are a resource to help. Be engaged with your children and be aware of what they're doing online. And certainly, I think maybe most importantly, like we rely heavily on our partner agencies. Our partner agencies across the state, we have great relationships with them. They help us with these cases, as you saw. Those cases, those warrants were served in Pocatello and Idaho Falls, Madison County. All of those agencies on that side of the state and across Idaho are significant in this effort, and that's in the end it's kudos to the Attorney General. The Attorney General has empowered the right people to help and carry out what is statutorily his, and he does a great job at that. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to help. So yeah, that's probably what I would add.
Well, we appreciate it. I know sometimes, at least at East Idaho News, we get complaints if you're covering too many of these. And my response would be that I hope the day never comes where it's no longer news, where it just becomes so standard that we decide not to cover it. The reason we cover it, the reason we're doing this is tonight is to let you know this is a real problem. And based on the statistics that we just showed you, it's a growing problem. And one of the ladies who handles all the tips said, I don't know if it made it in the piece or not. We've done so many edits that it can be a straight A kid, it can be a honor roll athlete or academic person, a person in the band. It can be anyone, and the suspects, the men that are doing these, the older men, can be anyone, right? I mean, we saw the guys in the pajama pants who are living with their parents, but also you've got people that have jobs and are known in their communities.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. This really, it crosses all sorts of lines, and we've seen that at every level. Yeah, sadly.
Nick, you mentioned the Facebook pages for the Attorney General. Where else? Do you have stuff on your website? I imagine you do.
There is, yeah. So if you go to the Idaho Attorney General's website, there is a link to the ICAC website, Idaho ICAC Task Force, and then if you Facebook Idaho ICAC Task Force, it'll pop right up. And Instagram and yep, follow us and certainly help share the message of how to keep kids safe. And Nate, thank you for reporting on them. They're all over Idaho, and we try to do a press release on every single arrest that we make. and all of the sentences as well, because we too think it's important. It's important that this is it's a pandemic. It's growing, and we gotta help put an end to it. So
Well, thank you. Thanks for letting us tag along, and
yeah,
we'll
it
wait for
was
the next
fun.
undercover investigation.
That sounds good. That sounds great.
Thanks,
Perfect.
Nick. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
chatting with you.
Thanks, Nate. You too.
Everybody, Nick Edwards from the Idaho Attorney General's office there. Just a great guy and great men and women that are doing this work. We'll post the report that we just showed you later on its own on eastidahonews.com tonight so that you can share it with your friends, share it with other parents, teachers. People need to know this is happening. I mean, it really was surprising to go to that one apartment complex and you've got one guy here and then 3 hours later, one guy here in buildings like facing each other. They didn't know each other. They weren't connected. Both of these guys were doing the same sort of stuff. And it's a great reminder to check what's on your kids' phones, iPads, computers, all that stuff, because there's a lot of stuff out there that is just so troubling. Okay, we have a couple of shout outs tonight. Before we get to that, let me thank our sponsor, newspapers.com. I mentioned that they were at CrimeCon and many of you were there. And I told you I was going to announce the list of our winners today for the t-shirt, and I forgot, but they've been contacted. So I promise tomorrow night, the t-shirt winners, newspapers.com gave away 5 t-shirts, and they've been a great sponsor. They have all sorts of information and other stuff that you can check in to on their website. And we want to thank them for taking care of you all, our audience, giving out these t-shirts. And I promise I do have the list. It's in the other room. I was full disclosure, I was going to do this program from my house tonight at home, but at the last minute we had to switch locations because of tech issues. So it's sitting on my desk at home. But I'll have that for you tomorrow night. But I do have some shout outs for you. We have people watching in La Quinta, California, San Antonio, Texas, Polk County, Florida, the UK, Nebraska. There were so many people from Nebraska at CrimeCon. It was great seeing you all. Cypress, Texas, Denver, Sandpoint, Idaho. I've been to Sandpoint, England, and New York. Thank you all for watching. We have some shout outs. Virginia Thompson, good to see you. Lisa Duffy, Bethany and Brian, Susan Platt, Darla Merrill, Lorraine Smith would like to wish her wonderful husband, Philip, a very happy birthday today. It says Phillips, so maybe it's Phillips or Philip. Either way, happy birthday, Philip. We're all singing to you from wherever we are in the world. Brandon B. and June Johnson, thank you so much. Thank you to Peggy for gathering our questions. Now, tomorrow night, we will have an inside look at the maximum security prison in Idaho for women and a one-on-one interview with the warden, in depth. She's never done a media interview like this. We're going to sit down for 20, 30 minutes. I don't remember how much it was. She's going to talk about what life is like in prison. And I know y'all have questions about the commissary. How much is the TV? What can they order? How much are the Skittles? I've got the list. We'll go through it. I know you might be thinking, why are you spending time on this? It's because people are interested. In fact, I did a session at CrimeCon with Marsha Clark about Barbara Graham, a woman sentenced to death in California for a murder that she likely didn't commit years ago. Marsha Clark wrote a book about it. And when we were going through the presentation materials, the photos and everything, she had a picture of Barbara Graham's jail cell. And I said, you really think people are going to want to see this? She said, absolutely. And of course we are. We're fascinated, if we haven't been behind bars, about what goes on behind bars. And we never want to go there. Well, tomorrow I'm going to take you there. I wasn't locked up. We're going to do the tour of the Idaho Women's Correctional Center. And I might have an inmate on, not a current inmate who's there, one who's been released and is living her life. She wrote me and she said she'd be happy to talk about what life was like as a female prisoner. So if we can connect, we'll have that tomorrow. I still have that Mike King interview that I promise I will show you this week. We'll probably do that on Thursday here on Courtroom Insider. Great. It's been good to be with you tonight. Thanks again to Nick Edwards, to the Idaho Attorney General ICAC unit. And I have to say, all the men and women we went out with were just top-notch professionals. Sometimes police can get squirmy around media and worried and mean. I don't blame them. Sometimes reporters are the same thing. But these guys and women were just cool, just great to work with. There were many undercover ones we couldn't show, and we didn't show you those, and they just have to do their work, which is totally understandable. But those we could show, we did show, and they were great, and getting us access and helped me at least see a different side of these things, and hopefully you too. So thank you all for watching very much. It was good to have you with us tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time, for another edition of Courtroom Insider. I'm Nate Eaton. Have a good night.